What's up, people? It's another episode of The Giants, guys. It's the podcast you love to hate because you know you can't live without me, and we're back. I'm in the lab with Chris. I'm in the lab with Zane. Get the rest of the crew the night off. And I have in here, though oh, wait, coming in and out. It's Ryan Dunleavy from the New York Post. And by the way, NJ.com in the past. So he's been around the team for a while. So, Ryan, welcome to the show, my friend.
You guys are breaking up a little bit.
Oh, man. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah, I heard some of that introduction. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. But, yeah, I covered the team for NJ.com from 18 and 19, and now at the New York Post, I do mostly Giants, a little bit Jets since 2020. So, well, yeah, I've been around the team for the last – basically, they stopped making the playoffs when I came aboard.
Oh, well.
So you're the issue.
Yeah.
The guilty party.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We got a ton of questions that we're going to ask you. So, one is, let's start off with some softball stuff, Ryan. One, you grew up in Jersey, right? So, you've seen nothing but bad football over the last decade. And like you just mentioned, over the last 6 years, the Giants rank last in games over 30 points. So, and what's unique about that stat is they've had 9 games over 30 points. 8 of them were with Shurmur. So, you start to think about, maybe Shurmur wasn't the problem, but that's not my question. Since you're around the team, what are you seeing from Dable and Kafka that may give the fan base, some hope that they can fix Daniel Jones and start winning some games?
Yeah, look, I mean, Dable, we got to take not to throw too much negativity to start with, right? But like Dable's offenses weren't great until he got to Buffalo and had Josh Allen, and it's not like he was working wonders with Miami and Cleveland when he had those quarterbacks. So talent still wins. But yes, to your greater point there, the Giants have an offensive coach. When they had an offensive coach in Pat Shurmur, they scored 30 points pretty regularly. I mean, 8 times in 2 years is pretty decent. It was middle of the pack. They never scored 30 points under Ben McAdoo. And the only time they scored 30 points under Joe Judge was that crazy game they lost in Dallas where they, I think they lost 34-31. Evan Ingram had a special teams touchdown called back by penalty. They lost on a walk-off field goal. So, yeah, no, they should definitely be a better offense. They're definitely going to be a more aggressive offense. Wins, losses, I think you guys are in for a long season as fans, but I think about where last season ended. It will be a more watchable team. For whatever that counts for, I gather from the Giants fans I've talked to, last season's team was unwatchable. This will be a watchable team. This will be a fun team to watch. I just don't know that they're going to win a lot of games.
I'll tell you this, Ryan. I've told this story to numerous people now just to put things in perspective. So to your point about watchable and how awful it was last year, think about this. I've had season tickets in my family since 1968. Since 1984, I've only missed 7 games. A couple weddings, a couple funerals, some sporting events for my kids, right? The last game of the year against Washington was the first game that I have ever voluntarily not gone to. And I'm saying, and I live all the way in South Jersey by Philadelphia. I drive 2 hours to the game every game, Monday night, Thursday night, doesn't matter. When I realize that I've had enough, you know what I mean? I drive in the snow, in the rain. I've had accidents on the New Jersey Turnpike that took me 4 hours to get home. When I don't show to a game, it's got to be bad because I voluntarily told them to stick the Pepsi to shove it up their ass, and I didn't show to that game.
So you missed the quarterback sneaks from the shadow of your own goal line.
Yes. And by the way, my seats are on the 22-yard line. I was right in front of me. Chris is in the chat, and Chris says he drove here. I'll pop it up on the screen. poor Chris drove from Virginia to watch that game. Oh my God!
Oh, that poor Chris! What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
The poor man.
That is a diehard right there. Good God,
It is.
God bless you.
That's it.
So to your point is, it's definitely an offensive coach. So we're back with at least an offensive mind, and you're thinking that it's going to be more watchable because it'll be more dynamic. There'll be more vertical. There'll be more intuitive type of passing game that's fun.
Yeah, it'll be creative, aggressive, and downfield. And look, I just don't know if they have the players to do that. Like, they're going to try to do that, but Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney had 0 combined touchdowns last year. That's not all on Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. That's a little on the players, too. I mean, Kenny Golladay, put it this way, the Giants receivers, Shepard, Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, one of the knocks on them early in Daniel Jones's career was these guys don't get any separation. If you use the next-gen stats, if you talk to people around the league, the Giants receivers don't get separation. So what they do? They went out and signed Kenny Golladay, who gets the least separation in the NFL by every metric. He's a big guy. He's a tall guy. He's a physical guy. He should be able to win jump balls, but he gets 0 separation. So, like, they amplified a problem instead of fixing a problem, if that makes sense. So, yes, I think there'll be a more vertical team. I think there'll be a more creative team. But, again, you have to have the pieces to do that. You have to give those plays, downfield passing plays, take time to develop. Daniel Jones has had 0 time on almost every snap in his career. So if the offensive line is better, if Saquon Barkley keeps them honest, if Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney are what you think, then they could win games. But I just gave you 3 huge ifs. What are the odds? Maybe 1 out of 32 teams every year gets all their ifs to hit. If Kadarius Toney and Golladay are good and Barkley's good, that's great. Then the offensive line probably is going to stink. If the offensive line's good and Barkley's good, the receivers are probably not going to meet expectations. The odds all 3 click, then you're in for a special season.
Interesting. All right, 2 things. One is as it gets darker out behind you, you're turning invisible. So you might
bear with me as I get up.
Yeah. You may need like a light in the background. And secondly, you might want to turn your volume down just a little bit because you're breaking up. Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah. That's a huge difference. I could actually.
Let me see. I'll also try a different room in the house here. I'm sorry to make this such an amateur production for you guys.
Oh, it's fine. We're all good here. Listen,
So
the Giants guys.
As your audience gets a look at my kitchen, my downstairs. Yeah, this is my house.
We like tours. We're fans.
Getting the tours. Right before you popped on, Zane was telling us a story how he was doing some business in Nebraska, and the guy coerced him into getting a tour of his house. And the only thing he realized that the guy had like a small arsenal that could, for a third world country, he had like 50 guns. And he was like, why am I here?
Take out an entire block for no reason. But quick thing on Kenny Golladay and the if factor, if you will, right? If he's productive, well, we know he's been productive. He's not in the league because he's not. He was productive in Detroit. The one thing that was really odd outside of just, the offensive line being what it is, no oddity there. We're all used to how bad that is. But the thing that was odd is how little he was actually targeted, separation or not. Because when he was targeted, the statistics were like, off the chain. Like, it was always a first down. He was getting it done, but they just wouldn't throw him the ball. I don't know if that was by design. I don't know if that's Daniel Jones not feeling comfortable, gun shy, what was it? But he just wasn't targeted enough.
It's a good question too, Zane, because remember, he's supposed to be a 50-50 guy. So
right.
you would want to stuff the ball on him because he can catch the 50-50 ball.
That's what you do with possession guys. Right? Possession guys are not your separators. Their job is to use a basketball frame, which he has, box your guy out and go get it, which, again, he does a decent job. I thought he did a good job last year, but too often he'd be on the field and the ball wouldn't be anywhere near him, and then health-wise, he just wouldn't be on the field. So that one, I'm with you. If he's healthy is always the big question mark. We could throw like 30 guys in that category right now for this team, is if they're healthy. But aside of production, I think the production is there. I was just shocked by the lack of targets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I think what you saw is, look, Daniel Jones, obviously has had 3 years with Sterling Shepard, 3 years with Darius Slayton. He has the chemistry. Galladay missed pretty much all of training camp, so they didn't have the time to build up that rapport. So I think that definitely hurt them. And then, look, Galladay was in and out of the lineup. That hurt them. The play that sticks with me from Galladay, guys, I don't mean to harp on that awful weeks 18 game last year, but do you guys remember that throw? Daniel Jones put it right in his breadbasket. All he had to do was like outstretch, maybe dive, and he gave not even a really good effort on
It was the alligator arms play. We all know it was the alligator arms play.
Are we talking about the interception in the Rams game?
No.
No, I'm talking about the last game of the season. They had, and it wasn't even Daniel Jones. It was Jake Fromm. Threw him a perfect ball. Would have been a deep, would have been a probably 50-yard completion. And he short-armed it, didn't dive, whatever it was.
He didn't extend his arms out. Yeah, I know exactly which play you're talking about. He got killed for it all over. He got killed for it.
Yeah, and it was just like, I get it. They're not going anywhere, but if you're playing the game, you gotta lay out. You're making $72 million. That was a play that kind of, to me, summed up Kenny Galladay's first season with the Giants. Like, he was, I don't think he dogged it. I just don't think he was a factor. He got frustrated very easily. It was week 2. He was yelling at the offensive coordinator on the sideline after missing all of training camp. I don't know what he expected. It was just out of rhythm from the get-go.
All right, so let me ask you a question, kind of not to digress, but, we're talking about 30 points a game, new offense. What is, and this is a big question that might take on a life of its own. What's up, Mark Thompson? Ryan, we've got a fan that always comes every week. Mark Thompson, he's in Barbados. He's in Barbados, isn't he?
There's got to be better things to do in Barbados than listen to me talk.
I'm telling you right now, Mark Thompson is the best. He always hangs out with us. Okay, so here's the question: what is Jones like? What kind of year does Jones have to deserve a second contract? Like,
great question.
Because I'll tell you, and I appreciate that. The reason why I ask you is there's a raging debate on, if he throws for 3,525 touchdowns, he deserves a contract. But then the other side of it is, well, if he throws for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, but they win 3 games, what does it matter? So my question is what does it look like? What does he need to do to actually deserve a second contract?
Well, let me say it this way. I get the premise of that argument. But how many quarterbacks throw for 35 touchdowns and their team wins 3 games? Like that, doesn't really happen. Yeah. He throws for 35 touchdowns.
I was being a little facetious there, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I get it. Wins matter, right? But to me, there's 3 ways this could go. The best way for the Giants is he's clearly the guy. Say 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, extend him, start plugging other things around him. 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. It'd be his career high in touchdowns, his career low in interceptions for a full season. If he's doing that, then he's making the right decisions. He's helping his playmakers. He's making the team better. Extend him. The next best way, to me, if you're a Giants fan, the next best way this could go is that he tanks. He's terrible. Like, in week 6, he's not the guy. You're talking about playing Tyrod Taylor. He's throwing interceptions. He's fumbling. That's the second best way this could go. Because then you're going to end up near the top of the draft. Tyrod Taylor's not the guy. You're not, should we extend Daniel Jones? You're not waffling. He tanks. Move on. The third way, and this is what would scare the bejesus out of me if I was a fan.
Tagging him?
Huh?
Tagging him? Franchising him?
Yeah, he's like 20 touchdowns and like 12 interceptions, and they win like 7 games. And that, to me, is like no man's land. Because now all of a sudden, you're going to tag him. He's not going to be happy about the tag. You don't want to extend him long-term. You're not high enough to draft. I saw some stat the other day. 5 teams have double first-round picks in in the first round of the next draft. So you're not going to be able to trade up. The only way you're going to get a quarterback is to be terrible, because the other teams are going to have more ammo to trade up than you do. So you're going to be in no man's land. And I honestly, guys, I don't mean to be a killjoy. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, is that he plays good enough, maybe the best of his career, maybe like his rookie year, if I'm being honest. I was super high. If we were doing this podcast in May of 2020, I was super high on Daniel Jones. I loved what I saw. He had those 3 games. I think it was Detroit, Washington, and the Jets, where he had like 4 touchdowns, no picks, 280 yards. I wrote this today. Did you guys know the 4 highest single game passer ratings of Daniel Jones' career using QB rating? The 4 highest games of his career are all his rookie season.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that is unbelievable to me. The last 2 years are just a total wash. So, yeah, I would say if he's anything like his rookie season, that's like a terrible scenario for me, because then he's like good enough that he's definitely an NFL starter, but I don't know that he's good enough to win you a Super Bowl. So you got to like hope for he has a huge breakthrough, and I'll just use 30 and 10 as a 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, 4,000 yards. Give him a big contract.
Yep.
Or hope that he is awful and benched by week 6. And you know what the future is.
And what's interesting about that, Ryan, is, I mean, and again, not to be the downer, but like, and Chris, you could jump in here too, and Zane, I don't even think he has the tools around him or the players around him to throw 30 touchdowns. Like, don't get me wrong. If Galladay could just take the skirt off and get on the field, and Tony could figure out whatever he needs to figure out, and Robinson turns out to be, Steve Smith Jr. part 2, like, yeah. But, like, you're asking for everything to be perfect to throw 30 touchdowns. We can't get through training camp and OTAs with Galladay not being hurt, and we're not even bringing up the fact that Shepard's wearing a red shirt too. So throwing 30 touchdowns would be like what would be the absolute definition of lightning in a bottle.
Absolutely. Am I breaking up at all, guys? You got me?
Yeah, you are breaking it. I don't know if it's your volume, but yeah, but I mean, look, we're loving everything you're saying, but yeah, it is
we can make it out. So I'll just say this on the Daniel Jones thing. Even if he goes 30-10, I'm still franchising him, right? Because even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Do it again, and then I'll happily pay you. I have no problem with the payment part, but do it again. One time doesn't cut it for me. One time is how we ended up here 3 years later, right? Because that amazing rookie season. So even if he has a great one, just do it again. You'll get your money. It's fully guaranteed, 30 million, whatever it's going to be. Go enjoy yourself. But I'm not giving you the long term until you do it again. That's just me.
Go ahead, Chris. I know you wanted to jump in. You had
I was just going to say on this before I ask one of my other questions is, when you look at his rookie year, I mean, was that offensive roster better than what he has now? I don't know. I think the offensive. You think so? I mean, the offensive line, I would assume is going to be better this year.
Chris,
he didn't really have a big target his rookie year.
But Chris, Slayton caught everything you threw at him, and now he can't catch a cold.
No, and at $2.5 million, which is getting paid, I don't even know if he even makes this team. At the end of training camp. But I wanted to transition, if I could, Ryan. Ryan, there's a lot of ifs right now because they've just been at mini camp and rookie camp, and they haven't put on the pads and really done much. So I want to save the, what do you think of the offensive line maybe for later on as we move forward, past training camp. But I want to look at that left guard position. When you look at left guard with Lemieux, Garcia, maybe Azudu, what is your feeling going into training camp? I don't want to say who's the front runner, but who are you looking at? I mean, you were up close last week at the camp. What's your thoughts on that left guard spot?
So I'll tell you, my experience in 5 years of doing this is the starters in May are usually the starters in September. Very rarely does a guy lose his job. I mean, Matt Pert is the guy that I can think of in my 5 years of doing it. They tried very hard at this time last year to make Matt Pert the right tackle, and he just lost the job, basically. Very rarely does that happen. So, to me, Shane Lemieux is the guy to beat. The coaches will downplay it. They'll say, oh, he's, don't read too much into OTAs. But no, he was the first team left guard. So, to me, that means he's the guy to beat, to be left guard. It's pretty cut and dry. They're not going to waste a practice, as few as they get in the offseason, putting a guy out there who they don't think is the starter. They're trying to build chemistry with the same 5 guys. So to me, I think he's the guy to beat. The guy I think Giants fans, just anecdotally from my Twitter, from my email, the guy I think Giants fans are expecting a lot from and are going to be surprised is Max Garcia. Like, I think they thought he was their starting left guard, and I think he's going to be on the bubble to make the team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't see Garcia more than a let's see what happens or a can't body. Definitely think there's better talent. I'm surprised you're getting that in your mentions. I haven't seen anyone harping too much for him.
Oh yeah, I've seen. We signed a guard who counts for 50 career starts. Well, Will Hernandez had 50 career starts too. If you guys signed Will Hernandez, after he played his first 4 years elsewhere, you'd be like, oh, I don't know this guy. So. I don't think he's that much different than Will Hernandez, who Giants fans wanted to run out of town. I don't know why they think Max Garcia would be a huge upgrade.
What about Azudu? Is he like just going to compete for a backup role, or is it clear that he's good enough to be a backup?
Look, I talked to his offensive coordinator. He loved at North Carolina. He loved the guy. As you guys know, it's been written a million times by now. He was playing tackle and guard on the same drives and whatnot. Basically, what North Carolina was doing was wherever this play is going is where Azudu needs to be. If it's going to the right, he's playing the right. If it's going to the left, he's playing the left. If it's going to the perimeter, he's playing tackle. If he's going inside, he's playing guard. I don't know how the other defense didn't quite figure that out, but I think he's a long-term answer at guard. I'd be surprised if he's the starter week 1. But look, Shane Lemieux's not unbeatable, right? I mean, we know Shane Lemieux didn't play last season, and he was fine as a fill-in as a rookie, right? I can't remember, guys. You probably know better than I do off the top of my head, but wasn't he really good at one skill and really terrible at the other? What was it, guys?
It was poor at pass protection.
Yeah, he was a good run blocker and a terrible pass protector. Right?
The quote was that
it's coming back to me now. He was the lowest rated pass protector in the entire NFL his rookie year. So he's certainly not unbeatable. I think they'll give the job to Lemieux on seniority, and they'll want to make the rookie earn it. But no, if you told me, is Azudu starting by week 6, I would say certainly possible.
Yeah, and the quote was at a camp last year was, Lemieux is a great, run blocker because he'll fight anybody like that. They were just, and they were talking about how he's too aggressive. He's always lunging. He's always out of position, and he'll scrap with anybody. And I think he got thrown into that mix, and I don't think he was quite ready to be the starter, but they needed him at the time.
Correct.
You're hoping. I mean, I don't know how much his pass game is going to jump because he was on injured reserve most of last year. So it should be interesting to see. It's a great question, Chris, too, because that left guard spot, like Glowinski makes a huge difference on the right side. That left spot is an interesting spot. But I do want to throw this one up here because Dash is asking me in the chat, who's the backup center? Like, because here's
really interesting.
Yeah.
Ben Bredesen was taking snaps as the backup center on Thursday. No one had written that beforehand. No one really made a big deal out of it Thursday. I guess we'll see who's there this Thursday. But Ben Bredesen was the second team center last week, and that was surprising to me. But good for. I mean, I get what he's trying to do. He's kind of the lost guy. Remember, the Giants gave up a ton for Ben Bredesen last year. They gave up a 4th round pick and got a 5th round pick and a 7th back.
That was the flip where
a guy the Ravens were going to cut, basically.
So that was a desperation, right? Right before the season started, where oh my God, this is bad. We need somebody.
Yeah, Billy Price, same thing. Yeah,
and he's kind of like the lost guy. You're asking me about Azudu. I'm talking about Max Garcia and Shane Lemieux, and it's like Ben Bredesen was a mid-round draft pick by a smart organization in the Ravens, and he's not even in the conversation. So him trying to be the backup center is a smart move to try to make the team.
Yeah, great question, Dash, because I think, we've all kind of just, we've got Feliciano and we're like, center's finished. We really haven't put any thought into who the backup center was. So it was a good question.
And look, let's call it what it is, too. Feliciano is a guy who's been benched in his career. To me, he's not as good as Nick Gates. I mean, I know Nick Gates can't play this for at least the start of this year, But to me, their team got worse at center. They didn't upgrade at center. They got better. They got incredibly better at right tackle. If Andrew Thomas takes the next step, he can't just be as good as he was last year. This is the time for Andrew Thomas to be a Pro Bowler. If he takes that step, if Neal's a solid player as a rookie, and if Glowinski should be a pretty sizable upgrade over Will Hernandez from a below average guard to an above average guard, that's 3 good pieces. Left guard, as we've already discussed, is a huge question mark. And Feliciano, I don't know. To me, he's a okay player, but he's been benched in his career, and he ain't Nick Gates.
Ryan, just going off, if I could jump in, just going off of that, and who's out there, and the Giants with their salary cap trying to recoup some money. J.C. Tretter, who was with the Browns, is out there now. Maybe a vet minimum. I'm not sure if they would even make a run at him because of the salary cap situation. But it is strange that he is still out there. And I don't know. Maybe would there be a chance of a vet minimum deal with a guy like that as we move closer to training camp?
I think you're right. Vet minimum deals are what the Giants are looking to do. I think that's it. But I don't think they're looking to replace Feliciano. He's Bobby Johnson's guy, right? I mean, he had him in Oakland when the Raiders were there. He had him in Buffalo. I think. What did he say to us the other day? I wrote the story the other day. He said he writes the starters out and he writes dirtbag for Feliciano. And he wants a team of dirtbags. So he wants a team of Felicianos. It'd be a hard sell to tell your 9 or 11 or how many offensive linemen are in the room right now. We want a team of John Felicianos, guys. Everybody play like this guy. And then like August 11th, you bench him for a free agent. That would be a hard sell.
That's a great point.
That's funny. What's interesting about Gates is so we had Richie Soybert on last year, and he was telling us how hard the injury is to come back when you snap that leg. Like, it took him almost 2 years to come back. And when he came back, they had him as a backup, tight end and jumbo packages. And then he played some center. Like, he had to work his way back, not only from the injury, but work his way back into the lineup. Like, he was healthy, but he wasn't in playing shape. Right. And then the second thing is that, what kills me more than anything is that Gates didn't get hurt playing center. He got hurt playing guard. They moved him back to guard because they thought they were smart. And they did was
that's because somebody else who got hurt for him to slide over. Did Hernandez get hurt?
No.
Or Lemieux. Somebody got hurt for him to slide to begin with.
The game we went to guard, they just said they had, what do you call it?
No, Lemieux got hurt.
Lemieux got hurt, and he had
Lemieux got hurt.
And Skura was Skura that was put at guard.
Gates started week 1.
I mean, center.
Gates started week 1 at center, and then
Price came in. Price came in to replace him.
Correct. Price came. I think so. Was it Bredesen who started week 1, and then
Bredesen did it because he had a broken hand. They traded him and he got hurt. And he broke his hand. So he didn't even play for a while.
So who started week 1 at guard that they replaced?
Lemieux.
No. Hernandez. Hernandez was left guard.
Was it Skura?
No. Who was the right guard? Week 1.
Now I got to look it up.
Yeah.
Because that's what I know. What happened is Gates started week 1 at center, then he moved to guard for week 2, so Price could make his first start week 1. But I can't think of who would have started week 1. Who would have started week 1 that got benched for Billy Price?
All right, I got
Gates moved over. Price came in.
I think Chris is right. Was it Skura? Was it Matt Skura?
Skura came over from the Ravens at the end of training camp.
And there's Mark, are you sure? Mark says in the chat that he's sure the right guard was Hernandez. You guys leave, but there's like 40 of you guys in the chat right now. Do me a favor. Somebody find out who played guard that first week. Let's keep moving though, because Ryan didn't want to hang out with us all night. So go ahead, Zane. You're up. You got a question.
All right. Our favorite guy to talk about, the anomaly, Kadarius Toney. Right. Quite the anomaly. Quite the personality. Very entertaining. So here's the deal with Kadarius, right? The staff says they love him. Great to work with. All the things the staff is supposed to say, because what else can they say, right? So, take everything with a grain of salt whenever the staff says it. But here's a guy who has injury history, had a minor procedure that nobody knew about. What can we count on this guy? I mean, can the staff count on this guy? What are we looking for here? What should be the expectation, if at all?
Yeah, 39 catches, and I took some heat today on Twitter for it, but I was just making a point that 39 catches and he's already getting, a cleanup of the knee. That's a red flag.
Yeah. Can you count him? I don't think you can count on him. No. I mean, look, some guys, are they real injuries? Yeah, they're real injuries. Some guys are injury prone, right? They're real injuries. But from the first day with from his rookie season with the shoes that didn't fit, like, it's just, there's some guys, it's always something, guys. Like, if it's not an injury, he had COVID twice. You can't blame him for getting COVID, of course. Like, I had COVID. It's terrible. But if it's not that, it's the shoes. If it's not the shoes, it's not being at voluntary OTAs. It's always something. I would be very hesitant to count on, to like pencil him in for anything more than like 20 catches, 300 yards, and a touchdown. I would be very hesitant to do that.
Wow.
Like, no,
Really?
I don't think you can count. I don't think you can count him in. Honestly, I've had people suggest that I'll just be honest here with you guys. I'll give you something. I've had guys suggest to me that I've had people in the Giants suggest to me that he's kind of like the guy we all know from when we played youth sports. The guy who like loves to play on game day, but doesn't really want to practice. That guy, like he's your team's best player, so he feels like he doesn't have to practice. I've had guys in the organization suggest that that's who he reminds them of.
That's a shame too, because if he just,
and that might not be fair, right? Like injury. I hate questioning guys' injuries. I hate it. But he's had 7 different body parts. It's like a game of operation.
yeah, and like I said, it's a shame too because he could be a special player, but again, like you gotta, and again, we don't know. You know better than anybody, but there is probably a little bit of he likes football, maybe he doesn't love football.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, I've said this to the other reporters. I'm basically gonna ask him that question the next time we talk to him. It's like, do you love football or is this a job for you? So,
yeah, what a shame.
It would be. I mean, the talent is ridiculous. We saw what he did.
Sounds awesome. It's special.
And that's what lures you in.
Yeah. The talent's unbelievable. But is that what it is? Are we just getting catfished by potential and it's never going to actually ferment to anything?
I mean, that certainly happened. He wouldn't be the first guy. The Giants wouldn't be the first team. I mean, Clelin Ferrell was like the number 4 overall pick in the draft, right?
Well,
like Jamarcus Russell was the first.
In all fairness to both Jamarcus Russell and Clelin Ferrell, those were all decisions made by the same organization that makes those kind of decisions.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it wouldn't be the first time that a guy's talent was, tantalizing and
all right.
didn't live up to it.
This might answer our question, but I don't know. It's got question marks. Errol says, was it Zach Fulton at right guard? Could it have been?
No.
Right?
No, he was gone. He was gone in training camp.
Yeah, he didn't
That's
make
what
it.
I thought.
He got cut.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me shift gears on
If
you
you guys I just don't have my computer. I don't have my computer near me, and I'm holding up this phone so that we can have a connection. If somebody just goes to the Pro Football Reference game page for who was week 1 Giants, who was week 1 last year?
Broncos, wasn't it? Denver.
Yeah, Giants Denver. The Pro Football Reference game page. One of the tabs is starting lineups. It'll tell you.
By the way, that was such an ugly game.
Sure was.
Could have won that, man. No, that's the one where Jerry Jeudy got hurt, and we still lost.
Yeah, they just couldn't get out of their own way that game. Like they was just like it was like nothing worked. All right, so let's talk about something positive, right? Let's talk about the draft class. You're around the building. Like, what's the vibe on what you see? What you're seeing? Are the people in the building exciting about this class? Because
this draft class?
Yeah, because I will say, Ryan, we've been excited about, Barkley and Jones and Tony. But like this entire class has a little again, I'm knocking on wood when I say this, but it has a little 2007 feel to it where there's some guys that can play in the later rounds. There's some smaller guys that, might turn out to be like super dynamic. Like, kind of wondering, A, what you think of the class, and like, how's it feel in the building? Is the building excited about the new bodies?
Yeah, the building's very excited, but the building is the guys who picked them. You know what I mean? Like Chris Pettit didn't pick these players. The people who are still there picked these players. So they're very excited about them because nothing's changed in them 3 weeks since they picked them. Let me tell you what other people think. Let me tell you what the rest of the league thinks. When I text people with other teams, scouts, executives, coaches, and I say, what do you think of the Giants draft class? The feeling I get is they hit a home run on day one. Maybe got the first and second best players, actually, is what somebody said to me. Maybe got the top 2 players in the draft.
Wow.
What Shane did is in manipulating that draft board to get the pass rusher and put OT on the back burner, knowing he'd get 1 or 2, is something Dave Gettleman would have never done. So that shows you the upgrade at GM there, just the line of thinking. I think that they love what they did day one. I've heard good things about the linebacker from Indiana on day 3. I've heard good things about Azudu. I've heard good things about the safety from Iowa. I know a lot of coaches in the Big Ten. I covered Rutgers for many years. I know a lot of coaches who have bounced around there in the Big Ten. So I asked, it's not hard to figure out. I know a lot of people in the Big Ten. I've gotten good feedback on Belton and McFadden. There are some questions about if the Giants drafted both Flott and Wan'Dale Robinson 1 round too early. And that'll go away if they're both good players. If Wan'Dale's productive, nobody cares if he got drafted in the 2nd or the 3rd round. If you gave me a 2007 Giant or a 2004 Giant, I'm not even sure I'd remember if he got drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round. I just remember if he was a good player or he wasn't a good player. I can never remember if I looked it up yesterday. I could never remember if David Deal was a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick. I just know he was a 10-year starter. So it doesn't really matter. But right now, the feeling is that Wan'Dale was probably a 3rd and Flott was probably a 4th. And people are having a hard time believing the Giants weren't trying to draft a corner in the 2nd round before they traded down twice and got McCreary and Booth taken before them. People have a hard time believing they weren't eyeing up a corner there and they ended up with Wan'Dale. But if Wan'Dale could look, Wan'Dale right now is the 4th or 5th receiver. But let's call this what it is. Shepard is probably not on the team next year.
Oh, he's not. He's out.
Yeah. Galladay is the most they have a ton of salary cap space, so they don't need to make a salary cap cut. If they do, Galladay's the most likely guy to go.
That makes sense.
Tony, if he has another, mercurial season, he could be traded.
Yeah.
He could be traded. So you could be looking at a depth chart where Wan'Dale Robinson's your number 1 or 2 receiver next year. So it's not crazy that they picked a receiver.
Yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson seems to be Shepard's replacement. I think that's the easiest way to look at it. If you have to look at a replacement, it'd be him.
Yeah. So and then Flott, I've had people tell me he's a really good player, but they thought he's a really good player who would have been a better value around later. But to me, it doesn't really matter. If he's a really good player, the Giants don't draft enough good players. So if he's a really good player, I don't care that they drafted him around 2 early.
Richard Sherman said about Flott that don't even think about him on the inside. He should play outside in the NFL. All his skills translate. His only knock was he just has some inconsistency in man and zone where he bites a little bit or gets a little bit lost. And that comes with reps, right? It takes time. There's too much expectation immediately. We all want everyone to be that home run number 1 guy. Boom, we get nailed to all pro. It's just not how it works. There's going to be some lumps.
You know what?
And then the biggest issue is he does need 5 to 10 pounds, right?
Right.
I mean,
the third round of the draft is an abyss for the Giants.
It's a hellhole.
Since Justin Tuck in 2005, they haven't had a 2nd round pick sign a 2nd contract with the team. That is what unless you count Davis Webb coming back on his 2nd contract. It's an abyss. That's where most teams get starters. I think that's where the Bills got 4 touchdown Gabriel Davis. The Giants don't even get players who can contribute. They get guys who are off the team in 2 years. J-Ron Hosley. So I mean, if Flock can play, I don't care that he was drafted in the third round. I mean, if he can play.
So Ryan, I talked to Leonard Marshall a couple of times. We've gotten friendly with Leonard over the last year, and he said that because he's also an LSU guy, that he's been on the sidelines, he's been around camp, and he thinks that he's actually pretty underrated. Flock, that he said that while he's not Stingley, he could definitely have some of the same qualities as Stingley, but Stingley gets all the attention, so people aren't really paying attention to how good Flott is. And he goes, by far, and to Zane's point, by far, he can play outside because he can definitely open his hips and run, and he can definitely play, that back shoulder fade. He said he's got a really good skills towards the vertical towards the sideline, and I thought that was cool coming from a guy who's actually been on the sidelines with the coach. He knows LSU. So, and then like Zane said, Richard Sherman, I think Flott has, he's a guy you can coach up, a high ceiling. And I think he might turn into a nice corner because I don't see, I think maybe Chris and I were talking about it last week. Like Robinson just seems like, what do you call it? More of a slot guy, more an inside guy than an outside guy.
I think Flott will end up being the inside guy. They're going to try Aaron Robinson first on the outside. Aaron Robinson's a guy we know nothing about, basically. Like he was a third round pick last year, and they missed half the season and barely played. I mean, he's a total wild card. What if he's actually good? Then what if he's actually a good player?
When he did play on the outside last year, he did get beat quite often, and I was like, "Oh snap!" But to his credit. No, but to his credit, he recovered and had pass breakups almost every single time. So he's aggressive. He's aggressive and physical. So it's going to be curious on how it works. And again, this is all scheme dependent. I mean, how much did Wink say? Yep, give me that guy. How much was it the GM saying? Nope, this is the guy. So I'm very curious on who the final say was on these defensive players, because there was a run made very specifically for them when they were taken.
Look, what I've heard is that Giants coaches were much more involved in both the picks and the scouting process than they've ever been. Well, I shouldn't say ever been, than they've been in probably a decade. That this coaching staff had more influence with this front office general manager than is normally the case. That's what I can tell you is maybe the end of Reese. I know coaches who were there. Obviously, I know all the coaches from Shermer's era, Judge era. I know that these coaches got more influence than now. Look, Shane's making the final pick, but coaches were more heard than they've ever been before.
And that's all good news too, because they needed more than a coat of paint. They needed to break it down and bring in some fresh bodies. Buffalo, Kansas City, the Ravens. You've got some people in place that finally are from outside the organization. All right, so let's talk about my favorite guy, and I guess he's our favorite guy now because I interviewed him 2 weeks ago and was just, I don't know, he was just an outstanding, young guy, and that's Bellinger. I had done a ton of work, pre-draft on every single tight end. Tight end's like my thing. You know what I mean? So I did a ton of tape work, no highlight videos. I mean, full games. And, there were a couple guys that I wanted, of course, before Bellinger. But, we did about an hour interview with him, Ryan, 2 weeks ago. What a great kid. You know what I mean? And I think both Chris and Zane will back me up. Like, all he wants to do is show everyone that he's more than a blocker. But if they ask him to block every single down, he'll do it with a smile on his face because he definitely has the knack. I mean, he didn't drop a ball the entire season in 21. So I think he's a little bit underestimated. I heard some good things out of camp. Might even came from you. I heard a couple, some good things about him.
Yes, he's made a couple big plays. I've heard a couple nice catches. I'll give you guys a little tidbit. While you guys were on the phone with Bellinger, I was on the phone with his dad. He in the very next room, he was like, do you guys know? He's like, this is all new to me, New York, or the Giants guys. My son's on the phone with those guys right now. I was on the phone
That's
with
awesome,
his dad.
man.
While
That's
you guys
awesome.
were talking to him, I was on it. They were like, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't mean. He's like, I know you told me earlier in the day you were going out with your son for dinner. He's like, nah, he's still on that call with the Giants guy, so I got time. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's gonna be That's gonna be a great trivia question one day. That's
Oh,
gonna be
it
a great
totally
trivia
is.
question.
Totally. And listen, for the record, and I'm just saying this, like what we've done the last couple of years. You know, I've worked with some of the guys from USA Today, but when I started doing this, Ryan, one thing we've always done was we've always made the show fun. We've never done any gotcha. I don't claim to be a beat guy. You know what I mean? Like we've interviewed some really cool dudes, like, you know, through the years. And we've always had a good reputation with the guys. And when Bellinger was like this, he's like, I even told him, I said, hey, look, you're probably not supposed to. I said, tomorrow you're getting on a plane, you're going to New York. They're going to tell you can't do this anymore. He's like, I'm like, so, and I said, so are you sure you want to do it? Because I don't want to get you in trouble. And he was like, nah, it's cool. He's like, let's do it. He's like, before I actually am told what to do and where to go, he's like, let's do it. So he was such a good dude. And he just left a really good impression, you know, because, you know, 3 sports star, you know, just, I don't know. He just had a lot of Kevin Boss, you know, in him. Yeah. And I'm really excited for the Giants to have a real.
I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for that kid so hard. Like, I mean, his interview was he's just, you know what, when you could feel the energy and you feel a guy and how he's just that guy. I think he's going to be a great future piece.
What did I say to him? I said, look, 2 things, Ryan, you got to know. I said, 1, when you get off the plane, I go, you're in New Jersey. Okay. And he's like, I don't know if I knew that or not. I go, the Giants play in New Jersey. I said, because when we interviewed Dominic Hickson, he had us rolling and he said, you know, take me to New York. I'm going to play for the Giants. And the cabbie went, sorry, Mr. Hickson, the Giants play in New Jersey. And he was like, what? Yeah. And then the second thing we told him was, it was just in fun. But I told him, I said, you're going to have a great career, but I'm warning you now. I said, I know you're used to those West Coast girls. I'm like, the East Coast girls. That's like, they don't take no for an answer, buddy. And we laughed. We rolled. He's like, yeah. I'm like, no distractions. Catch touchdowns. Block your ass off. Just a good family. I think his dad's name is Frank.
Yeah. So let me tell you about well, I'll tell you 2 things. One, I got a text from a scout right after the draft. Don't be fooled by the Jets and Giants tight ends numbers in college. Both guys are among the best pass catching tight ends in the draft. Both were just in systems they had to block. You'd rather have a blocking tight end because they might be able to catch. A passing tight end isn't going to learn how to block in the NFL. A blocking tight end can develop into a pass catching tight end. George Kittle being the case in point. Pass catching tight end isn't going to learn to block if he didn't learn it in college.
And that's to Craig's point too. Craig was big on Ruckert. He always said that's going to translate better. Don't worry, but Craig was big on Ruckert. We wanted Ruckert.
No one would believe me, Zane, right? No one. I said, look, this kid's going to be a better pro than he was a college player. And I did the research. 11% of the entire offense at Ohio was for the tight end. 11%. I mean,
correct.
Like,
and that's Bellinger too. I think Bellinger and Ruckert are both in that ship. And the guy that scouts always bring up is Kittle. Kittle had like really pedestrian numbers in college, and that's because Iowa just didn't throw him the ball. Plus, they had Fant at the same time. They just didn't throw him the ball. Now
Dawson Knox didn't do anything in college.
No one's saying Bellinger or Ruckert is going to be George Kittle. That's a very high bar, but it can happen. Is the point. And to his point on his family. Look, this story will probably be behind Post Sports Plus, which is our subscription membership site. But anybody who is a member or anybody who's looking for a free trial, I think it's a really cool story. Why I was on the phone with his dad while you guys were talking to him is I'm a history buff. I don't know if there's any other history buffs out there. So Daniel Bellinger's great-grandfather was one of 28 pilots who took off from the USS Yorktown in America's first response to Pearl Harbor. He was one of 20, the raid on the Marshall Islands. 28 pilots sneak attacked the Japanese at the Marshall Islands, 28 pilots, American heroes. 6 of them did not return to the boat. His great-grandfather was one of the 6 who did not return to the boat. So,
Wow.
and he lived in Glen Falls, New York. So he did not return to New York. The family left New York, and now Daniel's bringing the family back to New York here decades after his
Dude,
great-grandfather.
You're giving me chills, man. You're giving me
Yeah.
chills.
That's
That's
crazy.
so cool.
a World War II hero. So.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. And you know,
And Daniel's middle name is George Bellinger, which is it's in honor of his late great-grandfather.
That's amazing.
that not only did we just get a scoop, but it's a great story because I said to him, I said, look, I don't want to pry. I said, but I'd love to know why you didn't go to Navy. And he took me, like, he looked at me, I go, I did my research. I know how. I'm like, you're a Navy family. I said, I actually saw your grandfather's license, like it was online, like it was just there. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And and I think that kind of broke the ice a little bit. And then he was like, oh, these guys are fun. And we talked about it. And he said his grandfather was bringing him shirts and hats and jackets. And he's like, he had to call his grandfather and say, I'm going to go to, I'm going to go here to San Diego.
I'll give you another one. I'm a New Jersey guy. Obviously I work for the New York Post, but I'm a New Jersey guy. Where is Oriskany, New York, or Oriskany, New York? I think it's up by Saratoga. That's where a famous Revolutionary War battle was in New York. And however, great ancestors, Bellinger's has a father and his 2 sons in Bellinger's bloodline were killed on the same day fighting for America in a Revolutionary War battle.
No way. That's amazing.
Keeps going.
Yeah, like this kid's destined to be great.
That I just gave you the whole story basically. Yes, he is destined to be in New York. Yes.
I mean, we love the kid, and we love that guy. I think he's gonna. I'm rooting so hard for this kid.
Now that I told everybody the story, I hope they sign up for the free trial.
Oh, you know what? I'll make sure I sign up.
Thank you.
Chris, I know you got a question. You can jump in here, Chris.
No, Ryan, I know we want to hold you up too long. Just a couple things, almost like just a couple questions. Wan'Dale Robinson, we all know how electric it be. He's got the footwork, maybe not the long range speed. There was a little tag on him being a body catcher. Now, you were out with media access last week. Did you happen to see? Is he a body catcher, or did you see him using hands? What was your thoughts on the way he caught the ball during practice?
You broke up a little, Chris. What'd you say about his body?
Did you when you were out last week at practice? Did you sense that Wan'Dale was a body catcher? Because that was a little bit of a tag he was getting, or did you say, no, that's really not true? He's got good hands. What was your feeling on that?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have an answer to it. Well, first of all, he wasn't there last Thursday. He was at the rookie premiere. So I didn't see. So I've only seen him on the field the one time in rookie minicamp. He wasn't there at OTAs last week. So I can't say I have a real good feel for that. No, I will say he is stunningly, like, there was a debate: is he 5'11" or 5'8"? He's 5'8". He's 5'8". Yeah. He is. Right. He is.
I think you tweeted that, right? That he was measured at 5'11" at Guy's facility.
He's 5'8". He's 5'8". He's stunningly small. But this isn't the 1990s NFL. We see 5'8" receivers have success all the time. One thing I've heard on Wan'Dale Robinson, because when you see a 5'8" guy, you expect him to run like Tyreek Hill, and he didn't test like Tyreek Hill. One thing I was texted from a league source was he plays faster than he tests, which I think, to me, that's more important. Like, don't be turned off by his shuttles or his 40s at the combine. He plays faster than that, so I'm interested to see that.
There was a college scout, sorry, Chris. There was a college scout who called him Percy Harvin light, and that's a pretty good compliment.
And Ryan, this is a quick one.
You better make sure that's a compliment. There's ways that could not be a compliment.
Yeah. If he's smoking too much pot, yeah.
Ryan, last one. This is a quick one. Rodarius Williams have a shot to be the outside starter over Robinson, or you think he's destined to more or less be a backup?
Good question. He played okay. Like I thought he played okay last year. I think he's got a shot. Look, they want Rob more often than not, guys. the person the team wants to start is going to start. That's what made the Matt Peart situation last year so shocking, is like they desperately wanted him to start and he couldn't start. So more often than not, it's not really a 50-50 competition. The coaching staff has somebody they want to start. This staff, I believe, wants Robinson to start, but they didn't draft either guy. So if it's, 50-50, I think it's going to be Robinson. If he outplays him 60-40, it could be Rodarius Williams. Sure, it definitely could be.
All right, so last question before I get to the speed round. The speed round is just fun. The topic last week, nonstop. Okay, I happen to live in South Jersey. I'm about a half hour outside of Philadelphia. It dominated every single day about Bradbury, and kind of wondering, as a fan, you didn't want him to go, but you also knew that he wasn't a wink guy. He is great in zone. He's not a press guy, so it made sense. The Giants need the money, so that made sense. No one saw it coming that, he was going to go to the Eagles. There was not even any chatter that he would go to the Eagles. So how the heck does that even happen? I don't know. Maybe you weren't surprised, but most of us out here in fan land, we were always pretty surprised.
Yeah, look here. So there's no easy answer to the Bradbury situation. Giants fans are pissed that he went to the Eagles. First of all, he's going to go wherever he has the best chance to succeed, money-wise and playing time-wise. So he's on a one-year deal. He's been to the playoffs once in his career. He wanted to go to a good team that would pay him a decent amount of money. That's the Eagles, okay? It might not be the highest number. It was one of the highest numbers he got offered, and it was a good team. Joe Shane said on WFAN or whatever that Bradbury and his agent couldn't come to terms on teams with the Giants had a trade in place with. Well, my competitor, credit to him, Dan Duggan, reported that the teams that had trades in place with the Giants for Bradbury wanted him to take a pay cut and lock himself into 2023. There's not a professional athlete or an average Joe worker who would do that. Who is going to take a pay cut and take away a year of their free agency? He's not going to do that. So I can't blame Bradbury for that. Just like I don't blame the Giants for cutting him in May versus in March. He's pissed about that. He's pretty much said so to the Eagles media today, that he didn't like the timing of his release. Tough. You were under contract. The Giants did what's best for them, and they held on to you for as long as they thought they could get a trade for you. That's what was best for them. They had your rights, so be it. You were a free agent. It's your decision. You want to sign with the Eagles? Tough to the Giants. It's actually going to be more on the Giants salary cap this year for him not to play for them than the Eagles salary cap for him to play for them. Hey, that's the way the NFL works. Did I see him signing with the Eagles? I saw him taking a one-year deal with a winner. I knew that's what he wanted to do. Whether it was the Eagles, whether it was the Raiders or the Chiefs, I'm not surprised that it's a one-year deal with a team that's going to be in the playoffs.
Okay. In a perfect world, would he have been a draft day trade in a perfect world? Is that that's what the Giants were hoping. Yeah, they were hoping, all the corners are gone by the time Kansas City picks. I know Kansas City was one of the teams that was interested. They're hoping all the corners are gone by the time Kansas City picks, and they say, okay, we didn't get the guy we wanted. We'll give you a third round or a fourth round pick, maybe even a fifth round pick for Bradbury. And okay, let's move on. But if memory serves, the Chiefs ended up actually trading up in the first round to get their corner. So once that happened, I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Let me ask one quick question on that. And just like Craig's in a perfect world, in a scenario where the salary cap is an issue, does Wink Martindale and the Giants still want to keep Bradbury, considering he's a good player, or is it just, even though he's a good player, it just doesn't fit for what I want to do?
You're talking about Bradbury?
Yeah. The salary cap's not an issue. Is he still on the roster?
Salary cap's not an issue. Yeah, I would say. So, see, that's a great question, actually, because, you would say yes to everybody, but, the salary cap wasn't an issue for Logan Ryan, and Logan Ryan's not on the roster, right? So, they got no savings from Logan Ryan, and he's not on the roster. So, it's not 100%. I can't say yeah and, brush it off of course he is, because Logan Ryan's not. But, yes, I would say yes. He's not a perfect scheme fit, but he is a good player, and I think I think the Giants, if you gave them truth serum, they know they don't have enough good players. So, yeah, I think especially with the way they want to play, the pressure they want to put on corners, I think, yeah, salary cap's not an issue. If he put it this way, I think I could go even further. If he didn't have the 2 restructures last year, if he just had his original contract, I think he might still be on the roster.
Yeah, wow, that's really, I never even thought about that.
Yeah, that second restructure was.
I was saying that's such a great point because he didn't have 1, he had 2 restructures, which basically was the nail in the coffin. Like, I never even thought about that. That's why you get paid the big bucks, man. Because that's priceless info right there. Because think about it, we wouldn't even have to care about the salary cap if Gettleman didn't restructure him twice.
Push it down. Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Here's the speed round, and then we'll let you go hang out with your family. You don't need to hang out with us.
It's the This Is Us finale tonight, guys. Come on.
Oh,
yeah. All right, ready?
Yeah.
You can watch only one football movie. Is it Blindside, Remember the Titans, or Rudy?
Was it? I'm sorry, you broke up. Was it just Blindside or Titans?
Yeah, you can watch one football movie. Blindside, Remember the Titans, or Rudy?
Titans. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Side, strong side. What keeps Jones in New York?
I'm tearing up right now thinking about Bertier getting in that car accident.
Yeah. Well, wait. Remember, the movie starts with his funeral.
Yeah.
So he dies anyway. But yes. And by the way, I think I cried more about the 68 Camaro that he wrecked more than anything. Mm-hmm. All right. What keeps Jones in New York? Great statistics or games won? We kind of covered this.
I would say great statistics because I think it's pretty clear from everything I've said. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. So I think great statistics would keep him in New York because I don't think there's a chance they win enough games.
Who's most likely not on the Giants in 23? Leonard Williams or Kenny Golladay?
More likely not with the Giants?
Correct.
Golladay. I'd actually be very surprised if he is with the Giants in 23.
You need a wingman. You're going and I use the ESPYs as an example. You need a wingman for the ESPYs. What player are you bringing and why?
Saquon. Saquon. I'm on the red carpet. I don't know if he's still single or he certainly isn't married. Yes, I'm having the best. I'm meeting the most celebrities. I'm getting behind the rope at the most parties. I'm going with Saquon, absolutely. And he's a really cool guy. I can talk to Saquon about normal things that there's some NFL players I don't want to name, but there's some NFL players we have nothing in common. Saquon and I could have a conversation that it doesn't have to revolve around football.
That's cool.
He's awesome. Very interested in things that are well beyond football.
That's cool. I hope I'm rooting for the guy to have a great year. I really am. You guys, we spent an hour and he never even came up. I think he is, which is crazy. I mean, 3 years ago, the whole interview would have been Saquon. I think he's primed for a monster season, not just a good season, a monster season.
I really hope he's healthy, man. Just mentally too, right? I hope he's past his hurdle that he might. I just need him to be there mentally because I'm.
If you give me an over under for him yards from scrimmage, receiving
1,200 for rushing.
All purpose?
Oh no, I'm talking yards from scrimmage. Not all purpose.
All purpose.
He doesn't return kicks. All yards.
Okay, rushing and receiving, right? Rushing and receiving. Let's say 1,600, 15, 1,600.
16, I would say under. 14, I would say over. So somewhere in between. Somewhere in between there.
Yeah, I got him at about 11.
That's 1,005. I'd take that.
Yeah, I got him at 11. I got 1150 between the tackles, and he's going to pick up an extra 400 yards receiving. That's kind of where I'm at.
I would say it's closer to 50-50 there. I would say you're probably looking like 900, 600.
Okay. They have been throwing to him, right, at practice a lot. Chris, what do you think? You think he can pull 1,500 down?
I think so. I think he's going to be over 1,000 and receiving, 400 to 500. So yeah.
And in my defense, anyway,
with the 17 games. So there you go.
That is 17. Yeah, you're right. An extra game. I didn't talk about Saquon because it's so polarizing that I just usually leave it there because I want him to do well. Right. I almost feel like talking about it jinxes the guy, so I'm kind of just leaving the Barkley thing sit because I think there's a lot of fans. I think they feel a little burned. Then I think some people just don't want to like him for some reason. He's had a
people. It's not for some reason. It's because he was the number 2 pick in the draft. They want to take Dave Gettleman's mistake and blame Saquon Barkley for it. Like
that's a great point. That's a great point. People don't they don't like him because he was the second pick. If he was the 10th pick, it would be no big deal. But being the second pick,
But that's not his fault. What's he supposed to say? What's he supposed to say? No, guys, I reject this. Pick me 6 picks from now. Like
exactly. No, he's a class act, and like I said, I'm rooting for him. But that's funny. He's a good wingman. Okay,
let's not forget, guys. We talked earlier. You got me going now. Let's not forget. You talked about what happens with Daniel Jones. Do we just tag him? If you are going to put 1,500 yards on Saquon Barkley, he's a tag candidate, and you can only have 1 tag. So if you're going to tag Barkley, then you can't tag Jones, and if you're going to tag Jones, you can't tag Barkley. So,
I mean, to me,
somebody's got to get paid somewhere, Ryan.
I was going to say, like, you got money next year under the cap. Jones has got to get tagged. Barkley, you got to give a deal to.
I think most people would probably go the other way, but that's interesting. So
I just think I look at it like the fact is like. He's your number 2 pick. He's kind of still your face of your franchise. You know, he's a class act. He doesn't get in trouble. I'm finding a way to keep him around.
Guys, did you read one story about a guy? And I know he's been injured or whatever. Did you read one story about him like fighting for a contract this year, holding out, being unhappy, maybe not showing up to voluntary OTA?
Good soldier.
Nope.
Anything about a running back entering his 5th year? Anything about that? No, not one.
Not a peep.
No.
You wouldn't even know it unless you brought it up.
Yeah,
correct.
For the and for the regular fan, they dismiss that, and it's silly because the guy is still the face of the team. He's a complete class act.
I say this on Twitter all the time, guys, and people come at me all the time about this. I've had 3 different defensive coaches text me this offseason and say, he's still the guy we worry about the most. What are you talking about? It's Kadarius Toney. What are you talking about? It's Kenny Golladay. What are you talking about? He never plays. 3 different defensive coaches that say when they play the Giants, the guy they worry about the most breaking the game is Saquon Barkley. Okay? If you could tell me I'm wrong, you could tell me the fans are wrong, whatever. Fine, I'm wrong, whatever. Those are from coaches who have to play in. Those coaches are idiots. Okay, whatever. Those coaches told me that, so that's all I can go off.
No, I'm right with you. Like I want to like the guy. I want him. My kids have Barkley jerseys. You know what I mean? Like at least my guys, and we've got 6 guys that write for me. I think pretty much all of us are on.
We're all pulling for him. Yeah, we're all pulling for him. No,
yeah.
I mean, we talked about this when we had a conversation. Someone said, "Well, what do you do if Saquon Barkley does really well? You pay the guy. That's what you do."
I am. I'm tagging Jones. The guy. I'm tagging Jones for multi reasons, and I'm working. But the face of the franchise has got to get a new deal. You can't, regardless. Jones, like I said, Jones has got to earn a new contract. He's got to be almost perfect.
Yeah, I think the most likely scenario, honestly, is they end up having to offer him what I always call a Blake Bortles deal, because he's the guy who comes to mind as he didn't get whatever the market is now, 7-year, $300 million, whatever it is, the super contracts that Watson
signed,
yeah, whatever it is, whatever the rate is now, 7 years, $300 million, whatever it is. Bortles signed like 3 years, 48 after his rookie contract was up. So extrapolate that 5 years later, maybe it's 3 years and 55 or whatever, 56. That I think is probably the most likely scenario, that they offer him that. And he's an $18 million a year quarterback, not a $32 million a year quarterback.
I think Barkley could get the Chubb deal. The Chubb deal was affordable. I think he could easily, come.
I don't know. And there's so many ways that could go. That's why I think there was very little negotiation this year, because there's not even a starting point. Like you don't even know where to start a Barkley contract negotiation.
I've been told by our friend in Italy that the Rangers are winning. Just to put that out there for all you. I'm like, there's a ton of people in here. All right, I'm going to keep rolling with this. So, again, you don't have to hang out with us all night. All right, player on the team with the best sense of humor.
Best sense of humor? Ooh. Running through them. It was Logan Ryan.
Well, that's awkward.
Huh?
I said, well, that's awkward.
The funny guy got let go.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
funny guys that are around,
Best sense of humor. The best sense of humor. Now, remember, one of the things with this is we haven't been in the locker room in 2 years. So, like, you're joking around with them.
Good point.
It's much more different than it is when you can, like, just walk up to them casually. And Adoree Jackson. Best sense of humor, Adoree Jackson.
Okay. That's cool.
Very underrated guy, by the way. I like Adoree.
Yeah.
Very
He
underrated.
better not be underrated.
He is.
CB1 better not be underrated.
Yeah, catch those picks, catch the balls.
Exactly. Helmet. You want the NY on the helmet, or you want the Giants on the helmet? What do you like?
No, NY.
Guy loves his tradition. See, he knows. Most superstitious Giant you ever covered. Ever.
Most superstitious guy I've covered?
Yeah, because I'm sure some of these guys got some crazy quirks.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. There was somebody who. Oh God, sorry, I can't. I'll tweet it or so. I'll tweet it. I'm gonna have to look up a story because there was somebody who was so superstitious a couple years ago, and the name is escaping me right now. But there was somebody who did go to like great lengths to like eat the same stuff all the time, and I can't think of who it is. They've rotated the roster so much in my 5 years, but there was somebody who is an obvious answer to this question.
Just tag me in it so I can find it.
All right, I will.
Best college player you covered to ever come out of Rutgers.
Best what?
Best player that you covered that came out of Rutgers, or maybe you didn't cover him. You went to Rutgers, correct?
Best player that So here's what I will tell you. I couldn't have been more wrong about this. I thought Leonte Carew was going to be a fantastic pro. He ended up doing nothing with the Dolphins as a third-round pick. The best one I covered is obvious. It's obvious to me. It's Devin McCourty. I mean, I think Devin McCourty is a borderline Hall of Famer. So I would say he's the best. Him and his brother are the best guys. Literally, two of the best guys I've met ever in my life, not just in the NFL.
And, you mean as people?
Yes, and then Devin's also the best player. I mean, like I said, I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. So I would say Leonte is the guy I thought would be great, who wasn't, and Devin McCourty is the guy who I think is definitely the best player ever from Rutgers.
There's some love for Sean O'Hara in there.
I never covered Sean O'Hara, but obviously, I mean, great career. Look, it's not a long list, right? We're talking about, Marco Battaglia, Sean O'Hara, and then guys from 2005 on. You can make a case for Ray Rice. He went to 3 Pro Bowls, obviously.
Yeah, Sanu,
but he's never been to a Pro Bowler. To me, it's Ray Rice at the Pro Bowls. Devin McCourty's a 2-time All-Pro at different positions.
And
O'Hara's
Super Bowl champion, right?
Bowl.
You got Super Bowl champions in the conversation.
McCourty's got a bunch of rings.
McCourty's got the rings. He's 2-time All-Pro. Like I said, I think he's a borderline. If I had a Hall of Fame vote, I would probably cast it for him.
And yeah, not many safeties get in the Hall of Fame anyway, right?
Yep.
All right, let's talk about last 2 for you, Ryan. Ojulari, what's the over/under on sacks? I got him at 12. Was wondering what your thoughts are, because I had to do the research because someone asked me this week about the sack rookie record for the Giants. In 1981, they didn't
track it.
Yeah, they didn't track the sacks because LT had 9.5. So this year, believe it or not, and no big fanfare, by the way, like it almost like under the radar that Ojulari had 8 sacks and now owns the Giants rookie record for sacks. Like, I mean, no one's even talking about it. Like, he had a really nice year.
By the time that he was setting that record, it was all, is Judge going to be fired? Jason Garrett was already fired. It just got swept under the rug. But no, I thought he had a good year. But look, you dig a little deeper, he got home on most of his sacks. He got home on most of his sacks. He didn't have a ton of pressures that became 8 sacks. Most of the time he got a pressure, he got a sack. And the Leonard Williams debate would be that pressures are more valuable than sacks because you're getting there more regularly, even if you're not finishing it. I'm on the Ojulari side of that. Give me the sack. Give me 8 pressures and 8 sacks rather than 32 pressures and 2 sacks. But If you're asking me over under, was the question Thibodeau over under 8 sacks? I would go over.
Ojulari over under, not Tibbs.
Oh, Ojulari over under 8? I would go under.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, I mean, he had 8. I can see him getting 12 this year. You know, I can see that.
Yeah, if I'm going over for Tibbs, then I can't go over for Ojulari. The Giants have had one guy reach 10 sacks in the last 8 seasons. I can't suddenly say they're going to have 2 guys in 10. So if I'm going over for Tibbs, I'm going on under for Ojulari.
Okay. All right. Then last question would be is or I should say will. How about that? That won't put you in a corner. Will Tibbs win Defensive Rookie of the Year? The hype is really big on him. You know, I feel sometimes we might let that train roll a little fast, but you know, what's your thought? Can he win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Can Thibodeau win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
It won't be Trayvon Walker. Gardner is a really good player, but it rarely goes to a cornerback.
It's really hard for a corner, man. It's really hard.
He certainly could if he had a ton of sacks. I would tell you, I think the Defensive Rookie of the Year is probably Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from the Jaguars, who went like 27th. I would tell you he would be my bet for anybody looking to make a bet on Defensive Rookie of the Year with good odds would probably be Devin Lloyd. But Thibodeau, yeah, he certainly could. If he has 10 sacks, he's going to be in the top 3 for sure. I think Gardner is probably the most impactful defensive rookie, but it's very hard for a cornerback to win Rookie of the Year.
I hope Tibbs plays defense because I love the fact that, you know, Leo had 81 tackles last year. I love a backer or an end that plays the run like JPP used to. So I hope Tibbs is a well-rounded player. That's all I could hope for.
The word on him is he will play the run. They're just a little – other teams are curious if he's big enough to take the run pounding that the NFL will offer him.
Well, they're going to stand him up most likely, no?
So,
I don't know. I'm curious how they're going to use him. But a quick question just on Leonard Williams, like a quick yes or no. With now Ojulari and Tibbs and a good enough pass rush, do you expect a better year from Leonard Williams on the inside to be a little bit more dominant?
I do. I think he's the biggest winner. I think the obvious thing is to say Ojulari is the big winner of Thibodeau. I think Leonard Williams is the big winner of Thibodeau. Yep. He was the guy, even with Ojulari, he was the guy offensive line's worried about. Now I think it'll be Thibodeau. I think Williams will face a lot more less double team chips from where he's coming from.
Yeah, because he took a chip from a tight end and doubles all year. So, Chris, what do you got something you want to end up here? Because I'm going to let Mr. Dunleavy go. And by the way, Ryan, thanks for hanging out with us. Nothing better than knowing when we're interviewing a player, Ryan is secretly on the phone with his dad in the other room. Priceless story. Go ahead, Chris.
And then I reached out to Ryan. I had no idea. So how crazy is this, right? But this is off the radar. But I am curious, and we're on this defensive back kick, or I was before. Jaquette, the cornerback that the Giants picked up from the Eagles, has been flashing, they're saying, in the past few days, and surprisingly.
You're talking about Jaquette?
Jaquette, yes. Any feedback on him that you might have?
I don't. I haven't. I haven't. I don't want to be wrong or say I haven't asked anybody about him. I haven't seen him practice. I haven't sent a text asking anybody about him or not. I haven't. I saw the Giants team reports have mentioned him the last couple of days, and somebody asked me, what do I make of those? They're obviously all positive, the in-house media. And I say, you know what? I said to somebody recently, it's better to be mentioned than not mentioned. You're right. They're never going to put a negative note in, but it's better to be mentioned positively than not mentioned at all, because that means you're making plays. So, yeah, I guess, but I haven't asked anybody.
Yeah. Ryan, can we look for any reports from you on Thursday with media access? Will you be out there at OTAs?
I actually am not. I'm obviously there pretty much every day. This Thursday, my parents are away, so I'm with my 3-year-old all day. So I have a vacation day, but I'll be back out there next Thursday. So,
man, Chris, you trying to get the guy to work on his day off?
No, I like his reports. I like Ryan's reports. I'm locked in.
One last quick question. Week 1, is Blake Martinez your starting middle linebacker?
Absolutely. He was the middle linebacker in OTAs the other day with a red jersey on. I was like this. Why does this guy even have a red jersey on? Yeah, absolutely. I would say you want a positive bit of information. I think Blake Martinez is well ahead of schedule.
Yes, yeah.
I want him back so badly. Things changed dramatically the moment he got hurt.
People
He
forget
went
that.
down and the defense just fell off a
Yeah,
cliff.
yeah.
That-
Leonard Williams had to do so much more because
Correct.
he got hurt. Like things changed.
People forget how valuable he is. I mean, and the Giants. I mean, God, they've ignored middle linebacker forever. People forget how valuable Blake Martinez is.
Let's go as far as to say best linebacker on the inside since Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, last one for me, Ryan. I'll let you go. Is the only draft pick that doesn't seem to have any buzz at all is McFadden. I don't hear any reports. I don't hear he broke up a play. I don't hear he's behind. Like, what's the deal with McFadden?
I don't know. Good question. Like I said, I've heard good things about him from college sources, but again, I can't say I noticed him either day. There's so much to pay attention to with like, look, Rodarius is back. Oh, look, Blake Martinez is in the middle. Oh, look, Kadarius is doing the jugs machine. I can't say that I've noticed McFadden either day. That doesn't mean he's not doing well or is doing well. Just not one of the guys that I, made a note of in my book.
Okay. I just had to ask because I was thinking like, I was so disappointed that they didn't get Chanel or Lloyd or any of these backers in the second or third round. There was a bunch of them right there to take. And then they did, and same thing with tight ends. But I was cool with Bellinger, but I was like, we need a linebacker. Crowder is not the answer. So I was happy with McFadden, and every day that goes by, nobody's talking about him.
Yep, agreed. I thought that they would take corner in the second round when they took Robinson. I thought they would take linebacker in the fourth round when they took Bellinger. So I thought they would take tight end in the third round when they took Lott. So look, I will say people love this. I know your audience will probably love this. The Giants did an incredible job, whether it was smoke screens or just being tight-lipped, one or the other. They did an incredible job of misdirection on this draft. I don't think anybody really knew. Any reporters or any other teams really knew what they were thinking.
The best one was it 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before that they don't like Kayvon's personality. He's not built for New York, and they're out, and that got leaked.
Yep. I didn't report that, guys, but I can tell you that none of my information leading up to the draft told me it would be Thibodeau. Nothing. So,
and I love that. We've been too transparent and we've gotten beat up a lot for it. Good. I don't want to know. Let me be surprised too. Don't
and
let
the love
me know.
for Cross too was another big one.
Yeah,
they did love Cross. That's not a lie. They did love Cross, but look, if Neal and Aquanu were gone in the first 5 picks, I think Cross would have been the 6th pick.
I agree with you. Yeah.
If Neal and Aquanu were gone in the first 4 picks, I think Cross would have been the 5th pick. They did love him. They just didn't have to pick him the way it broke out.
Right.
I got to give BT Brandon Tierney the nod on that one when we had him on because he bet Tiki that it was going to be a run, right? He said, "I'll bet you it's a run on defender players," and Tiki was like, "No way, no, it's not." And they ran the table on defensive players, so he called
first
that
5,
anyway.
right? Is this like I don't know the last time that happened? The first 5 players all defense.
Yeah,
1991.
There you go.
See, you don't even have to ask; he knows. Well, thanks for watching and hanging out. You're watching another episode of the Giants Guys. This will be up on the Giants Guys YouTube channel. Check these guys out for their content. Of course, Ryan's got So Ryan, how do we get access to? Because now I have to read the Bellinger story. How do I get access to it?
It'll be on the New York Post website, and then I'll tweet it out, of course, at Ryan Dunleavy. I'll tweet it out. It'll be on the New York Post website, and then the Bellinger story. A couple of things I do here and there, probably one a month. I did a big Kenny Pickett thing before the draft. One a month gets put behind the Post Sports Plus page, which is for our members. There's a free trial. And as soon as you click on the story, you'll get hit with the free trial. Appreciate anybody who's willing to give it a try. Paul Schwartz does a newsletter for our Post Sports Plus members every week. That's like additional like insider kind of thing that hopefully people find worth it. So
yeah, guys,
we're one of the people that gives 90% of our Giants content is still free, unlike everybody else. But we do have.
I read a lot of Ryan stuff because it's free.
Yeah. But
Yeah, well,
And it's
look,
good.
guys, make sure
And it's
you
good.
tune in. Yeah, make sure you tune in. Ryan does a great job. I mean, we appreciate you hanging out with us, getting through all those technical issues there. The information's great. Hope we can get you back on. I'm still enamored by the fact he's on the other line with Frank. And
that's
then I
hilarious.
mean, I'm enamored with the World War II story. Like, this is good stuff. If you would be so kind, I'd love to have you back when you get a free moment in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to come back on. Next time we'll have some fun with my movie and food takes. I might be the most bizarre guy you've ever met in terms of both food
We
and
got
movie.
some bizarre guys here, so don't worry.
We
Ryan.
got some bizarre guys. All right, we'll have to take you up on that. Well, thanks for watching another episode of the Giants, guys. You guys enjoy the rest of your nights. Your night, not nights, just night. See you guys.